Homeschool Slacker contains adult language and themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello! Welcome to the podcast where I haven't watched any movies and
I help him go through his watch list,
which grows larger by the day.
It's been a ever growing list.
Yeah, for the last
I don't know how long has it been since you got out of college?
College? Oh god.
Or do you not want to think about that?
I graduated. Well, it'll be 8 years since I've been out of college.
Fuck.
Yeah. Oh, I'm Ian, by the way,
And I'm Megan.
and we're gonna talk about our first movie.
Yeah, your first movie.
My first movie of the watch list being finally taken on, and we're gonna be talking about Fight Club.
Fight Club from 1999.
And oh god, who directed that?
Directed by David Fincher.
It is Fincher. Okay.
Also known for, Also known for Seven in 1995, Gone Girl, Zodiac, The Social Network.
So
It's a very weird.
that's a weird collection
oeuvre.
of things. Yeah.
Because he's got all kinds of other shit on here. Let's see. Mindhunter.
That's a TV show, right?
Yeah, that was on Netflix. House of Cards. He directed 2 episodes of that.
Okay.
Girl
There's no controversy with House of Cards, right? Nothing.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the American version from 2011. Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh, really? Now wait a second. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, they did 2 movie versions of that?
Yeah, they did there was the Swedish version.
I knew the book was Swedish, but I didn't know they did 2 different. Okay.
They did the Swedish version of all 3 books.
Okay.
But I think they only did 1 version of the American version because American audiences did not enjoy it. I liked the movie. There is a very violent rape scene.
Oh,
that
they just kind of didn't need to make the way it was.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how it is in the Swedish movie because I watched the American version first in theaters. Almost had a panic attack.
Oh God.
Yeah, and then I watched the Wait, did I say American version in theaters?
No. Yes.
Oh, okay,
Wait.
Yeah. Anyway, saw the American version.
Okay.
Got to the rape scene. Could not. Almost could not handle it. And then I watched the Swedish version on Netflix, so I knew what was coming, and I skipped the whole scene.
Fair enough.
So I don't know, but then they were supposed to do 2 more, and then they never did.
Now the real question is, do I feel like what you're saying is just don't put it on the list.
I mean,
doesn't mean we have to get to it. I'll just stick it on there. And what do you think, the American one or the
American one? I mean,
yeah,
the American one is Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara.
Okay.
And Christopher Plummer. Oh, right. I forgot Stellan Skarsgård's in it. And as a creep.
Classic.
I mean, slight spoilers, but whatever. So, yeah, that's David Fincher.
Okay.
The movie's writers, Chuck Palahniuk. Palahniuk. I've never... Palahniuk?
Weirdly, the last name sounds kind of familiar.
He's a pretty prolific writer. I've read 2 of his books. I think I read because he wrote the novel that Fight Club is based on.
Oh, got it.
And then I think I read one of his more recent books called Damned or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, so my next thought is, what can I give you? What I think the basic plot synopsis is?
I mean,
I
not that it's right there on the screen.
I haven't actually been looking at it. And it's actually talks about. It's actually pretty.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't
get a lot of information.
Yeah.
But my understanding is, and literally this is all I know, is that it's these, and aware of a potential like kind of Shyamalan twist, but I don't want to say it out loud because I'd rather not manifest it because I think, but I know there is some sort of Shyamalan twist at the end of it, and I know that it's like a guy who joins, like it's like a counterculture, like need to feel something, joins a Fight Club energy.
Yep.
And that's kind of all I know.
Okay.
And there's something to do with identity in the Shyamalan twist. That's all. That is all I know.
Really? That's all you know about the Shyamalan twist? It's a pretty famous twist.
Yes, but I also just like haven't. I don't know.
That's true. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's probably something you're like, oh, well, okay, and then just flushed it out of your brain toilet.
It's just like Dumbledore dies, and then I just didn't even think about it again. So yeah, okay. Well, I guess we better watch it then.
Yeah.
Here
So
we go.
Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, 25 years ago, they are gonna look pretty young. Helena Bonham Carter and Meatloaf as well.
Wow.
May he rest, I guess.
I guess. May he rest, I guess.
I guess.
Let's roll this thing.
All right, let's roll it.
Well, we're not quite halfway in.
49 minutes and 40 seconds.
I got the twist.
And you figured it out.
Yeah. Spoilers, they're the same guy.
This movie has been out for 25 years. If you haven't seen it already.
There's no situation in this podcast where we should have to do spoilers.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, yes. All right.
Tyler Durden and
whatever, Edward Norton. Oh, I can't think of the character's name now.
They don't actually name him.
Oh.
At some point later in the movie, he starts referring to Jack. So like in stuff, he's usually referred to as Jack or like the narrator or stuff like that.
Okay.
So
okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like this movie's been going on for way longer than 49
I agree. Wow. All right. Well, anyway, we're gonna keep moving.
We have an hour and a half left.
It's fine.
But
It'll
most
be
of
great.
that's credits.
We got this. Hopefully.
All right.
Okay, but like, who was he at the end, though? Like, what? Was he Tyler or what? Or, I mean,
Which personality survived the gunshot?
Yes, that's my question.
I don't know.
I suppose that's probably part of the thing. Okay.
So you were taking notes.
I have two very separate thoughts about this.
Okay, cool.
Enlighten
me.
I both simultaneously feel like it was a pretty well done piece of media on its face. Like it's okay. And I think that it has some really interesting like modern ramifications about like toxic masculinity and like how your own thoughts can get away. Like there's lots of really interesting stuff. I kind of hated it for one specific reason.
Please tell me.
And that is that it feels like the media that created Andrew Tate. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's like it just feels like, and I'm this is not a hot take. I'm sure I'm not the first person who's had this thought, but like the whole thing is way too easy to like
take it
romanticize.
face value.
Yeah. Like it doesn't play in a way where
it's totally demonizing.
Yeah, like, and I know that like that's, you're not as a filmmaker, you're not required to do that. Like
right.
you're supposed to make it however it's supposed to, work best for you, like, for the story and like tell the story how you want to see it. Like I get that, but like fundamentally, I feel like it was just played a way too romanticized.
Yeah,
and it made me feel icky, which again, I think that was the point. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But it was like, I've seen it, having watched it the first time, 27 years later, whenever it was, 25 years later, I've just seen too much of the ramifications of the culture that it generated to like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe this is going to be a thing that happens with this podcast where I see something so far later and like can't get past what it generated.
Well, and so, I mean, to be completely blunt, we are both white, you know, from middle class backgrounds.
Yep.
Cis people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the big, and Chuck Palahniuk is kind of famous for writing these social satires,
right.
These social commentaries that take on stuff like the toxic masculinity and the you know, the heavily consumer culture and you know, capitalism and all that.
Right.
And he's very much not an Andrew Tate sort of person.
And I knew that like the entire production came from a not toxic masculinity place, which is too bad because it literally created a new generation of it. Like in a way, like I feel bad because I know what the creator intended, the author. I don't know but you know, when you go in and you make a movie, you need to maybe it was just because it shouldn't have been a movie. You know, like it's one of those things where by its nature, you're going to make Tyler Durden kind of has to be cool.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point, right? He's the one that...
Because his, you know, alter is the skinny, kind of nerdy...
Right. The real guy is the corporate drone who, you know, is becoming disenfranchised with reality, so he's creating... his own version that
id.
Yes, exactly. Id is personified as Brad Pitt, which I don't know, that tracks pretty well actually. And also separate thing, like the Brad Pitt outfit's just getting progressively more
crazier,
and more insane, and also more and more 90s, like in a way that I can't explain adequately. Like the
last one is he's in a like multicolored collage tank top with a big like Huggy Bear fur coat. Like
it was something
pretty styling.
It was like the last coat was made out of the same like wig that Marla's hair was made out of. Like I don't know, it was crazy. I think but like because I did take just an absolute absurd amount of notes, but I just like right from the beginning with those opening graphics, like the opening titles, I was like, oh boy, this is taking itself seriously.
This
Good,
is edgy
great.
with
edgy with an IE.
EDGIE.
And then the next thing was, and I quote, "This explains a lot about the shit my classmates made in college. It's like I'm watching it in the wrong order. I should have watched this before I watched their stuff." Because it really does feel like it was like, oh god, all of the edgy shit people I knew in college made, you know, and now I'm watching it with a full budget, you know? It's like sort of what it...
With a Hollywood budget.
Right, exactly. That was, and I'm just like, well, I mean, but you know, it's good to... It does reframe a lot of things, but it also, unfortunately, too many film guys I knew, not the ones that I'm still friends with. I have some very good friends from that department, but some of them had very like Tyler Durden energy.
Yeah.
And I could tell you some stories about stuff I can't actually say on the podcast. But moral of the story is, it's a bad time. I feel like a lot of like cis white male filmmakers got a real hard on for this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and Tarantino, of course, but like, but this movie specifically had a weird hold on them because it's that sense of like, I can let my id free kind of energy.
It's the letting the id free. It's the violence.
Mm-hmm.
The not just like the fight, like punching each other and beating the shit out of each other, but like the acts of vandalism. And I haven't watched this movie in a long ass time.
Yeah.
So there were parts that I just didn't remember. And I'm like, oh, okay. But like these acts of vandalism against, you know, the corporate consumer culture, like that's the one part that I don't have an issue with.
Right. No, I think that's fair. I mean, like, no good story doesn't have the bad guy have some element of something that you can relate to. Totally.
Because, like, hey, if my credit card debt disappeared or my student debt disappeared because the building got blown up,
right,
shucky darn.
Right,
like,
right.
Oh, no, not that.
Shucky darn.
I mean, and the... And it reflects this fucking idea that refuses to fucking die, which is the concept of the kind of bootstrap mentality, the American dream, like you know, the narrator, Edward Norton, you know, he goes from
the Hulk. I'm sorry.
The Hulk. Ugh. No, that's Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, fair.
So he goes from, like, you know, nerdy, disenfranchised, lame.
Yeah.
Like, spends so much time in his apartment, corporate drone, boring.
Yeah.
White, like, not special, like,
right,
white
he's
dude.
Every other white guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other white guy.
Right. And there's that inherent deserving of something more.
Yeah. That white man entitlement.
Totally.
Man, we're coming out hot on this first episode.
We really are. We're not going to just tiptoe into it. Well, and that was, and you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head of where, like, the core of that was.
At the end, he's the leader of this massive, you know,
white national. I mean,
there's people of color in the
that's true.
But
I mean,
group,
like,
but
it's
like,
I guess I should say male.
This male oriented, like, army.
Right.
He's literally the leader of this underground secret army that has he's basically like a Hydra leader.
Truly.
That has, because it has, you know, there's like, I think in every scene there's like at least one dude in the background who's got the, you know, bruises and his cut up face and
right. It's the secret society energy with it.
So I mean, that to me is just like that bastion of, you know, because I mean, at one point Tyler says, like, you know, we were raised on TV that told us we were going to be rock stars and millionaires, and we're finding out that that's not true, and then he sort of like becomes that in a different way. Like, he becomes this military leader.
Right. And line that up with Tyler being personified as a rock star look.
Oh yeah.
And then he has, but I find it interesting that the character, like which is interesting, I did note that the captions call him Real Tyler, which I thought was very interesting. When it would cut, oh, nice. When it cuts
after the reveal,
right.
The subtitles called him Real
Tyler, which I think is a really interesting. I don't know if that's something that somebody made up when they made the subtitles, or it was something that it was actually in the script. Yeah, because I'd be curious to know. But I think that, like, because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to go through with it.
There's a lot to go through.
Like the I am Jack's blank thing. Like, who is Jack? Is that him? Is that just
a stand-in for the everyman?
Right. Like, what is that? Like, this is more than I want to. Okay, let me try to reorient my thoughts here.
Yeah.
But I'm going to back up and kind of move chronologically for a minute. So the whole beginning piece with where he goes to the different, like, support groups to feel something, right? Was that is that what they were trying to say? I was trying to understand.
The way I understand it is he was going to the support groups so he could cry, and that release of emotion was how he was able to sleep.
Got it. It was connected directly to the insomnia.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding is
Okay.
because once
That makes
Marla
sense.
comes along, she's his
and then he can't sleep
his
anymore.
foil because
Right.
he's
Okay.
too self-conscious because she's there.
Theirs, and they know each other's deal.
Yeah.
And then he feels like he's
And so he can't cry anymore. He
Right.
can't get that emotional release.
Right.
And he
Right.
can't sleep.
Her lie
So.
reflected my lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a note in here somewhere that was basically like, oh, there's great lines interdispersed with word salad. That was how it was like there were these great little sound bites that were amazing, and then a lot of it was just kind of like stuff thrown together, and then he was holding it up on screen. I'm like, what are we doing this for? Like, there were so many kind of montagey moments that felt like they were there just so they could masturbate. Like, it didn't feel like there was like a real narrative reason.
Yeah.
And like, I know that there's like stylistic choices, but it was dripping in a style that had a tendency to just sit and be very self-serving. Like, and this is a thing that I don't know if other people and other creatives have a different perspective than me on this, but and maybe this I'm gonna blame Janet Paoni. I'm gonna call her out on this podcast right now. But sorry, Janet.
Again, episode 1 coming in hot.
You're coming in hot
with the hot takes.
She was always, remember when we were doing like comedy with her?
Yeah.
She was very like, know when it's your moment, know when it's not your moment, and don't get in your own way, right? Or don't get in anyone else's way. Like, don't lead the audience through something that takes forever unless you know that it's going to be funny or it's going to mean something, or and I think, and I've been
to little Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
Don't introduce something that's never going to pay off.
Right.
Stephen Moffat. Stephanie Meyer.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Krantz.
Oh God.
I think that's sort of a thing that I feel like this movie does, and there are other people in the creative space that are more okay with doing things like that. Like a good example of somebody who's popular that does that. And I know I'm going to get a response out of you, so I'm going to say it anyway. Is Seth MacFarlane. He has a tendency to let a moment just go, or
drag.
Or either it's too long or it's too controversial.
Racist.
Yeah, right. Like, he'll go a little too far in any of those directions
Yep.
pretty consistently, and that's like part of the brand for him.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will find it funny.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I do not.
Yeah.
And I think that's and I'm not saying that people shouldn't push comedy, push storytelling, push boundaries, but like, there comes a point where it's like, is this for you or for any, like, and it's okay, like, and it's fine if it is for you, but like, don't expect people to be. Anyway, I'm gonna dial it back, but that's kind of my feeling about this movie. Is it had a weird combination of taking itself weirdly seriously, romanticizing the point.
Yeah.
and then letting it just, those moments just like languish. Like, it lets these moments just sit for a really long time, and it felt like there could have been other stuff that I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen, and I know that I will give it credit for always portraying the story from a single narrator. Yeah. Even though it's split, and technically.
That's kind of hard to do in a film.
Yeah.
Like, in a book, it's easy.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most complete and compelling stories of like the split personality that I think I've seen, like that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Asshole kind of energy.
Hey, have you seen Moon Knight?
Yes, that's also very good. I have not finished that, but I have seen some of it. That's a good one. Very refined. Very
different
style.
Very different subject, but I feel like
that's fair.
Like, Moon Knight actually consulted with people with DID, dissociative identity disorder. Right. This was
very early. Yeah. I don't even think that DID was officially in the DSM-5 at that point. No, I think it was still
called like split personality disorder or some shit.
Right. And so I think that if you want to go there, it's not a great portrayal of mental illness, which is, and they also utilized mental illness to, exploit it to kind of do something with it. But the other thing I wanted to really kind of focus on was, I want to know what you think of the character of Marla and how she interacts with the narrative, because I have some thoughts about it.
I think she is one of the earliest examples of manic pixie dream girl. I think she is
interesting. She's sort of maybe like a prototype for it. Because she definitely doesn't match the.
She's not quirky. She's dark.
Right, because
she's not a Zooey Deschanel. She's a Helena Bonham Carter.
Right. I don't know.
She's a.
But it's a. I mean, I kind of see what you're saying, though I'm.
So there's a line that I can't remember if it was in the book and it wasn't in the movie, or it was something that Helena Bonham Carter, like, they had written it into the script and it never made it into the movie. But Marla famously has a line that she says to Tyler that's something along the lines of, "I want to have your abortion."
Oh.
And it's
I wouldn't see that as like a manic pixie dream girl kind of
no,
line.
and I mean it's not like it's not something
right.
But like it's her aesthetic. It's the way her hair is kind of crazy and wild. Her eyes are big, and she's got all that eyeliner on. The kind of the scene where she's literally just standing in the middle of traffic while they're talking and doesn't give a fuck, like that to me is like
that is interesting.
Prototype.
No, I see what you're saying.
Manic pixie dream girl.
You could stick Zooey Deschanel into any of those scenarios. She would do it. She would handle it differently. Yeah. But you wouldn't question why she was there. Right. Which is an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that.
And another, like, one of the things with the trope of manic pixie is, like, she doesn't have a plot of her own. She's only there to serve the male lead's storyline. And at the beginning of the movie, I don't know if you caught this, he blames the entire thing on her.
I did hear that.
This is all Marla Singer's fault.
Right.
Because she came to my support groups and she interrupted my pattern. And for all we know, he's had Tyler Durden in his head since he was, a teenager. We don't know. We don't have that backstory. But like, the idea that he blames Marla for all of it.
Right. And accuses her of being insane. Yeah. Like, he kind of makes her out to be crazy.
Yeah. Hello pot, this is
Kettle. Right. And I think the other thing that I thought was interesting there's two things for me is, A, I wish there was like a little more of her. Because
could she have had her own plot line outside of Tyler and all of his shit? Yes. Yeah. But since this is, male power fantasy, she only lives to fucking suck him and to push his story further. Yeah. So nothing against, HBC. Right. Fantastic actress. Yeah. She's not that problematic as far as I know. Yeah. But I'm sure
we could dig far enough.
I'm sure. I mean, she was married to Tim Burton, and that's a whole can of worms. But like, yeah. But like, and I mean, this is from 25 years ago. It's from 1999. Right, so they probably shot it, 1998. Right. So I'm not surprised.
No, I guess I shouldn't
say
how
her character was treated.
No, I guess it was, and part of it too is like she also was, the more that you saw of her, the easier you knew the jig was up. Yeah, because she was absolutely one of the ways that
she's one of the first
one of the people
when
I called out in 40 minutes in, when I was like, oh, well, this is what's happening.
So yeah, that's why Marla wasn't super present. And I mean, sticking with the one narrator, he probably didn't care about if
Totally.
she had a life outside of him.
No, absolutely, you're right. I mean, it did a honestly, like, from a production perspective, it did a superb job of maintaining the one character.
I think in the book, it's heavily implied that she's a sex worker.
Okay. Okay.
And then, yeah.
Interesting.
But we don't, I mean...
We never know that.
We don't get any of her...
Right.
Outside of the fact that she goes to... illness support groups that she doesn't belong in, and she fucks Edward Norton / Tyler Durden / Brad Pitt.
Yeah. I think, the 90s of it all. It was so nice. Can we just talk about, like, how 90s it was? Because that was a, I'm trying to think of, like, a good example, but there was, oh my God.
It's kind of hard. I mean, since we spend so much time in that shitty, dilapidated house.
Do you know how it, like, this is going to sound really dumb, but it really, the whole movie, production-wise, felt like a really, like, bloody version of The Matrix. Like, from, like, the way that, like, everything from, like, the super early gen photoreal CGI to the super sterilized non-geographically specific city to, like, the shitty old houses and, like, weird aesthetic of, like, a like kind of formerly gothic, or not gothic, but, like, kind of grandiose structure that's fallen into disrepair. Like, that whole aesthetic, I think that was just very 90s, or maybe The Matrix inspired that for the whole decade. I don't know, but
well, The Matrix came out in what, 98, 99?
Was a few, like, only a few years before, maybe. Like,
but you haven't seen Seven.
I have not seen Seven.
Which was David Fincher from 1995.
It was the same year.
Oh, dang.
Okay, let me put that on the... You get a point, because that's going on the list now. Yep.
I don't know if you would enjoy Seven. It's a very similar vibe.
Okay.
But Fight Club feels like a little bit of a sanitized version of that.
Okay.
Because Seven is... I mean, it's Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. That's the What's in the Box.
Oh yeah.
So they're
Is it like just beyond bloody?
I mean, there's some real gross shit that happens. Like there's so the premise is Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are they're detectives trying to hunt down a serial killer who
based on the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, who's killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. So the one for gluttony, he basically straps a fat guy to a chair and feeds him until he dies. Like, force feeds him until he dies. And then the one for lust is a sex worker. I can't remember exactly how he kills her, but it's been a long time since I watched.
Right.
I can watch, like, a David Fincher movie, like, once a year, maybe. And then I gotta, like, take a break.
No, I understand.
So,
why do you think? I mean, like,
if you want to do Seven, we gotta push it back a little bit.
It's on the list, but I'm not in any rush to get to it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
This is. I mean,
it's a good movie, but it's also like it's like the lighting and the set design, it all feels like grimy. You know.
Got it. Yep.
Kind of like this one.
This felt very grimy. Yeah. It was either corporate sterile, but in like a 90s kind of gross fluorescent lights kind of way, which is again very, very The Matrix.
Yeah.
And then, or it's that, like you said, that really gringy, everything's kind of like, moist.
Yeah.
And that was another thing about this movie that I thought was interesting is I have not experienced a movie with such an extensive narration in a very long time. Like, I'm
trying to think of if I have,
like another movie at all like that. Like, it was
a lot.
A shocking amount of narration.
Yeah.
And some of it, like, and it was almost to the point where, you know how you first start listening to something, like watching something that's Shakespeare, and it takes you like a couple of minutes to like get into the cadence and like start understanding. at the beginning, I'm like, oh wow, this is gonna bug me. Like, it literally like took me a minute to get to the point where I was okay, because he's like doing like a college student essay kind of like thing happening like during that, and I'm like, okay. But once you start to get used to it, you start to kind of follow along.
I bet you're wondering how I got myself in this situation.
It's literally
like, that's...
oh, now you're all caught up. Like, it's it does. And also, like, so many things have done spoofs of that since then.
Oh yeah,
that it makes it feel almost kind of comical, but I'm sure at the time that it did not have that same feeling.
Well, there was I don't know if you caught it, but Ted Lasso references this movie in what's the Beard's Night Out?
Yeah,
Beard Alone, or whatever that episode is.
I think it's called Beard. Is that where he has the pants?
Yeah, the pants.
It's Beard's Night Out.
Well, because when they go to the super exclusive club, you know, he has the guys call the front desk lady and tell her apartment's on fire, and then she runs away, and he's like, tomorrow will be the best day of Sarah Kuntz's life. She'll wake up and her apartment will be the most beautiful place she's ever been. So, like,
oh my god,
when Tyler was, you know, harassing that poor Russell guy, I don't know.
Russell,
I was like, oh yeah, that Beard like referenced that. And
yeah,
like, I knew I had heard that before, but something along that line that, you know, tomorrow will be the best day of their life.
Yeah.
But like, at what cost though?
At what right.
Like, I think I'm okay with the blowing up the credit card buildings because they made sure no one was in there.
Right.
And it was just property destruction.
Right.
And, you know, the files burning up. But, like, some of the other shit they did, like the Russell guy and, you know.
Yeah. Well,
it's just, like, those are real people. Like.
Yeah, and that, like, also, like, that the one that he got that finally kind of, like, snapped him when they killed Meatloaf.
Yeah.
Like.
When Bob got shot.
Yeah, why did they even do that? Like, that was such a dumb, like job that they did anyway. Because
it was, you know, their civil disobedience. They wanted to.
Right.
It was kind of, to them, I bet they saw it as like a 1-2 punch. Like, we're going to destroy this piece of corporate art. It's going to roll.
Right.
And then it's going to destroy this bullshit corporate coffee house.
Right. No, I mean,
because fuck the man.
Right.
And like,
it's I feel like it's the sort of media that, I know we've talked about this already, but it feels like the sort of media that like people that are QAnoners would follow, you know, like they use like
they would take this as like
reality, or they would use it like as some sort of in reference, and not understanding the ridiculous nature of like how it's like, yeah, it's okay to be mad about the things that they're mad about, but like you're doing what, like, you do realize that this is a farce about that, right? Like,
you do real like. It's okay to be mad about the shit that they're mad about, but like the
don't
fact
become
that
a domestic terrorism cell.
If you're replicating it in real life, you completely miss the point. Like,
yep.
Like it just flew right over your head.
Yep.
Media literacy is
it's important, kids. We should really put more focus on that in schools, because it turns out unless you're somebody that was like, I was very lucky that I did fairly well, and so they pushed me into the higher literary classes, and I got to learn, you know, like I'm sure you did.
Oh yeah.
Hashtag gifted kids.
I was shoved into
all of the stuff, all the
upper level AP.
Yep. Exactly.
7th grade when I was in 6th grade shit.
Right. Exactly. And so, like, that was something that I always experienced, was like being fed the media literacy stuff and understanding like all of that, and not always taking stuff like this, especially when it's large and farcical feeling.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, this is hyper violent and big enough that it should be perceived as a farce. But I do understand why people probably didn't.
But there are a lot of people that,
because it was played in such a way that I could see that being they played the character that everyone thought was fun and interesting, who was the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just, like, and I get that that's a thing, but it feels almost recklessly so in this movie. But yeah, I don't know.
I think a bunch of bigger cities after this movie came out had like fight clubs that sprung up, and like people were arrested because it's assault. And
yeah, that's just it. People, and that's the thing, is it's like there's some real insecurities they play on to men.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that like they call out like the hunter-gatherer thing. They call out you know, not feeling like you have any power, feeling like you're, you know, it's that sense of independence and being masculine, and they call it out in a way that I could see why it wouldn't be so unreasonable that men would get sucked into it in the story. But it's also funny that people watched it and didn't see that was the bit, like, that was the point. Like, don't fall for the thing that feels, that's a cult. Like, that's what this was, is it was basically like a domestic terrorism organization that was a cult. And people saw it as like, oh, but I feel bad about stuff, and I want to improve and feel more manly as a, you know, person in my life.
And part of it is the social isolation that comes from, you know, a heavily consumerist, hyper-masculine society.
Right.
Because what was the key to his being able to sleep?
Being
and
able
not
to have emotional
be
release.
Tyler Durden.
Absolutely.
Was showing emotion to complete strangers.
No, and
he didn't have anyone in his life he could show
that.
Emotion to.
Yep.
Because he was single and apparently didn't have parents or, you know, other family or someone he trusted.
Right.
So he had to bottle all this shit up, and when you bottle shit up, it, you know, comes out in
really unexpected ways.
Sometimes very destructive ways.
Yep. And I think that's a good I think the point and the takeaway is
everyone needs therapy all of the time.
Everyone needs therapy all the time. And you need, and I think that it's gotten better in some circles and socioeconomic classes and stuff for men in this, but there is still a heavy stigma around being both masculine and being able to have emotional range.
Yeah.
And not being able, and the expectation is that you're not supposed to. And that is wild to me, because it's, you can watch it be destructive in real time, all the time up until today. And the craziest thing about how destructive it is, somebody made a movie about how destructive it is, and people went out and emulated the destructive behavior in the movie. That kind of gives you the whole story behind it, really. But okay, so here's the next thing.
Okay.
Because this is a new podcast and we're just freeforming this as we go.
Mm-hmm.
The Letterboxd app.
Yeah.
Once I've seen it, I can rate it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make like an entire like diary entry because I feel like talking about this is probably enough. But it's a 5-star rating.
Okay.
And now I have to decide what I want to fucking rate this movie. And
that's
right.
Hard.
It is hard
because like, can you rate? Is it like Amazon where you can rate different aspects?
No.
Oh,
it is a 0 to 5 stars.
Okay.
And then you can also like heart it separately.
Because like production wise,
I think
5 stars. Very well made.
So maybe we break things down ourselves and then kind of make an aggregate, right? Just kind of napkin math on that. So production, and so if they're all out of 5 stars, all these different sections, we got production and like design. So not even talking about story. Just 5. Those two things. I would say that is, if it's not 5, it's very near. There were a couple things that I found.
4.8.
Yeah, I found I will give them slack on the CGI.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't used super heavily, and it was for kind of interesting shots that I bet people thought would have been fucking cool at the time, even though like they do all the time now.
It wasn't a George Lucas
amount
of CGI.
Right. It was something, and when they never really focused heavily on it beyond the little
amount of CGI.
Yes, they were playing with the new tech, and I will give them their flowers for doing it correctly.
Right.
So I will say 5. The only thing that I feel like there's some heavy-handed editing moments. Like a couple of times it felt over the top, but I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
Because in the end it was supposed to be a farce. I'm trying to remind myself that, like the weird shaky stuff with Tyler's like going like in the background, like, and I get it because he was splicing the like. I get it. I get the point, but
the
it's
one penis at the end.
Exactly, but it felt like it should have been. I don't know. It felt heavy-handed, but I think 4.9. I'm going to say 4.9. 4.9. And that includes like set design too.
Yeah.
And that was excellent. I think they're just stellar. Nothing was weird. It felt stylistic, but also believable, and it was all good. Okay, so production design was 4.9. We've got, let's say, story. So
do we the question I'm bumping up against with as far as story goes is, do we rate the story based on, do we consider the audience reaction? Like all these people misunderstood the point.
Right.
Should that count against the actual quality of the story?
I don't
think so.
I think that should be separate, but I want to count it. So let's say story is 1, we'll say performance is 1, and then performances is 1, and then the last one, cultural impact.
Okay.
Because I think that it's important. Like I want to rate everything empirically based on how I feel about each thing in a vacuum, but I want to take everything into consideration with most of these movies having been out for a while.
Right.
And because I don't believe in consuming art in a vacuum generally.
Right.
I want to. The dog is kicking.
Oh.
In his sleep. Yeah.
He's
running. Okay, so story, but in a vacuum of its own, not considering cultural impacts. I think this one's hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I think that it touches on a lot of things that I agree with. It's moral, I think, in a lot of ways. I think that he's right in talking about what consumerism does to you. I agree with how he feels about what the expectations of masculinity do to you, and how violence is oftentimes inexplicably tied to masculinity, and those things seem to have like a positive correlation for some reason. I think that the portrayal of mental illness is sort of rude.
Yeah, it's not great.
Like a little bit. Like I was very young in 1999.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how it portrayed, how it played at the time. But I think that was definitely like that. There was this big time period for a long time where like that was like the big shtick, the twist, the Shyamalan twist, like we said before. Like it was always just like, oh, it was the same guy.
Yeah.
What? Like that was kind of like a thing at the time. I think it was kind of trendy to do that. Like,
mental illness has always been like a used as a plot device.
Yeah.
A plot twist, a plot.
And not really
enhancer.
And not really.
And not usually in responsible.
Right.
Correct. Ways.
A way that's respectful, or like, oh, he has DID and he's created an alter ego who becomes a terrorist. Like, really? That's what we're gonna do?
A lot of people with DID don't have.
Right, and it's a spectrum. Like, it's not all
right.
It's just one of those things where it gives a bad name to those. And I know this is society and culture probably, but I feel like there's this sense of Like, of course. Yep. Okay. The Weasley corporate drone guy didn't like his life, and now he has a mental disorder over it. Okay. You know. I think that
Plenty of people have mental disorders and don't become terrorists.
In fact, I think
there are two of us right here.
Right here. Right here. Yeah.
So story, I'd say 3.5.
3.5.
Maybe 3.7.
3.7. Yeah, it's kind of hard to not take in some of the... Yeah, I like 3.7.
Okay.
Okay. So, performances. So we're talking probably just actors.
Just actors.
I mean, unless you want to count... Because I think direction kind of falls under production to me.
Yeah. I'd say... it's hard because
I know that's super subjective.
I mean, yeah, and I think Edward Norton did a good job being Weasley corporate drone. I think Brad Pitt did a good job of being sort of this
bro body douche,
a little and like sort of a Jim Jonesy kind of.
True. Yes, he did. Like, he did fall into the drink the Kool-Aid kind of energy. Yeah, a little
charismatic
bit of that leader energy.
Like, people just inexplicably follow him.
Right.
As far as Helena Bonham Carter, I think with what the script gave her.
Oh, she did great.
Did good.
Yeah. It was actually interesting to see her like in a role that sort of fell a little outside of what I'm used to seeing her in.
Yeah.
Like it was just because she's usually a little more zany. Do you know what I mean? Like she was less zany.
And she's usually very British.
That's also true. Yes. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, that was interesting. I think yeah, it was a weird cast. It was an interesting cast.
Yeah. And then you have, Meatloaf as Bob.
Why wouldn't you? That was, I don't know, like, and then Bob was just an interesting character.
Yeah.
Even as a concept, like, as an interesting character. And the fact that he shows up and then dies is an interesting. But anyway, yeah, I think everyone did pretty well.
Yeah. 4.5.
4.5. The dog is sighing.
Yeah. He has such a hard life.
He really does. Cultural impact.
-2.
-2. I mean, and I feel like yeah.
Can we give it like as? Because
I guess we can't give it negative numbers, but I think
with the cultural impact section, kind of thinking about, was it a net positive or was it a net negative or was it neutral? Because to me it was a net negative, so therefore maybe like a 1 or 1.5 stars. If it was Encanto, which is delightful, it could be like a 4.5 or a 5.
Right.
But
yeah, I think that because we've discussed it at length already, I think that it's gonna be like a 2.
Yeah.
Because I think while a lot of people had good takeaways from it, I think a lot of them did. I think that there was a shocking number of people who didn't, and those that didn't were kind of destructive about it. And that's too bad.
Yeah. Because
I think it had an interesting story to tell, and right from the beginning, but the way that they portray it is just, I don't know, I wish I had better words. Right away it's portrayed as just very cynical against men. Anyway, it doesn't invite you.
Yeah, it doesn't
explore it. It invites you to be beaten down by Brad Pitt. It doesn't really.
It invites you to feel like Brad Pitt is your hero here.
Right. Immediately it pulls that in, and a savvy consumer of media is going to be like, oh, I see what this is doing.
Yeah.
But I don't think they did a good enough job of seeding that.
Yeah.
They didn't seed that he was bad. And I know that this is, a lot of people took away what they were supposed to from this, but I think that it bugged me. It bugged me a lot.
Understandable.
And that's gonna pull my score way back.
Yeah.
So I think that overall I don't want to do an average. Ugh. So that gives us an average of 3.7.
Yeah, I feel like that's
probably fair.
That's probably fair.
Yeah. So, all right. That was our first.
So Fight Club 3.7.
Fight Club 3.7 on the watch list.
On the watch list. Watchtower.
Watchtower. The Watchtower. It just keeps, the name of this podcast just keeps getting worse.
Oh my god, I love it.
But all right, well, tune in next time when we take on the next piece of major pop culture that Ian has not consumed.
Stop referring to yourself in the third person.
Jack's sadness.
Because I am Megan's boiling rage.
I am Megan's boiling. Good. It's like waiting for this.
Anyway.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm Ian.
I'm Megan.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Film School Slacker. Our graphic design is by Mitch Ransdell. Music by Ariel Shalom and Ziv Moran. Voiceover audio provided by Mike D and Janet Paoni. Learn more at filmschoolslacker.com.